Master Grade 00 Gundam Seven Sword /G. Hey again everybody, it's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs from YouTube and gundam.tk, and continuing in the lines of Exia, it's the 00 Gundam 7 Sword /G. Final verdict. You've seen everything from the unbox to all the weapons and all the ridiculous number of poses you can do. But now it's time for all the good and bad things in one place so that you can make a call as to whether this is something you want to add to your shelf. And something to keep in mind is whether or not you'd want to add this to a 00 riser or not. As he hides his head in shame behind the giant Buster Sword 2 shield. Anyway, let's get into some of the negatives. The first one being that the GN drives still come across as being a little bit small. You expect them to be bigger on the 00 Gundam, and they're small. However, problem with the original, something you can live with, especially when it's got so much added onto it instead. The Sword 2s, when you're putting them together, they have the same handle, so really nothing exciting there. I expected a little bit more out of them. The long comes across as being a little bit plain. The handles just, when you're getting the same build over and over again, of course you're getting the whole Gundam the same, but you would expect new weapons to be new. Now the Qatar, here's something that I was really hoping. Down below they've got these parts here. You've got a gray one on the inside and a gray one on the outside that holds it on. Would have been a lot nicer that if you take off the Qatar to actually have it in hand, that you've got 4 of these small parts here that don't have the peg extended on, because the peg sticking out looks a little bit dull when the Qatar's not on there. Then onto the Buster Sword itself. I find it a little bit strange that it's more impressive. Here it is, lit up, opened up. First of all, a lit up weapon is awesome, but why is it the shield mode that's more impressive visually than the sword mode? Now you do have lots of different options with this in and out, with the handles in and out, but basically you'd expect the sword to be better. I don't know why the mechanical designer did what he did. However, you can just extend it and call that the sword itself. Now the weight issues, they are to be expected when you put on this many weapons, and especially this one. There were less than I thought, but there are problems with the Buster Sword 2. You're not going to get it all over the place. It's very difficult to get it into both hands, even though they advertise that you can. The big problem being for me, if you saw the last part, when you hook it on, you've got this gray part. It's a cap on the back, and that cap slides on and off. And if you can guess, it's going to slide on and off with this in the hand. So poor design. You'd think that that peg that they actually attach it into would be on something more solid than something that's designed to pop on and off quite easily. Now in general, you're going to have a lot of parts on here, and you're going to have a lot of parts that are going to fall off. I broke the handle off of the rifle already, which is disappointing. Something that's going to have to get ordered. But the thumb flies off all the time. The fingers fly off all the time. The cutter's going to fall off. Pretty much everything, the hip parts are going to flop off. You can't expect to move 50 million parts and not have a few parts fall off, so it's somewhat to be expected, but again, just be careful, have a Ziploc around so that you've got these parts in somewhere where you're going to know, or they're going to end up on the floor, and who knows where they could be vacuumed up. Which reminds me of an issue of Ganota, but that is another story. Anyway, and the other thing is, in terms of parts, when they sold the Master Grade Exia repair mode, that was great, and I'd expected that they would sell a Master Grade 00 Gundam, and I was surprised that they didn't. They just came out with the riser. Now you'd think that with this one, if they're going to sell you the 00 or the 7 Sword, they could include the white parts. They were purposely omitted. That's going to cost Bandai money to make second plates. Why not just give you the options to put on the white knees so that you could have a plain 00 Gundam out of this, even if you chose not to buy the riser, because with the cutter on it looks awesome, but it looks like the 7 Swords. If you just want the 00, I wish they had given you the option. Now the final thing, this is something that I always harp about with variations. This is an awesome looking suit. It's a great idea, and I just wish it had showed up somewhere. So I don't know if it showed up in 00I, but it could have shown up in 00F. There's a million guidance, the odd appearance. Some of the suits from the variations did make appearances in 00F. Would have been nice to see this one just because it would have created that attachment, something that a data sheet in a monthly hobby magazine can't necessarily do. So what about the positives? Are there a lot of them? Well, I can think of 7 off the top of my head, maybe 8, and minus the beam sabers, 6. Okay, you get the idea. The first one being for me is just that cover art. Gundam boxes often just have fantastic cover art, but this one I think is one of the most striking ones I've ever seen. As soon as I saw the box, I said, that's a kit I want, despite the fact that I've already built the Gundam. So what about getting into the build itself? Well, it was a lot of fun, and that comes primarily down to the fact that the engineering that went into this 00 Gundam is fantastic. The joints are great, everything about it is interesting, and especially the weapons. Despite the fact that I built the 00 riser, the weapons here are unique enough, despite my complaints about the hilts and stuff like that, that I had fun building it just for that. And I've already built the 00 Quanta and everything, but it's so well designed, it can't hurt. Now, what about looks? There's tons of good things about this thing in terms of looks. I wasn't crazy about the fact that you have the Buster Sword and the rifle just hanging off a little bit limply straight down. But in general, this thing comes across as a loaded beast of a war machine. And that's in no small part thanks to the cutter. The blue knees draw your eyes down there, and when they do, you get to see those weapons protruding off to the side with the clear green in there. They look great. When you add on everything else, the shoulders, you just have this huge sword, then you have the bigger sword hanging off to the side. I think this is one of the best looking Gundams. You can't really make it with an ugly pose because with that much armaments, it's gonna look cool and powerful. And when you throw in the light up drives, I don't know how you can't be happy with that. Now in terms of the weapons themselves, its biggest selling point. The sword too, the long one, a little bit disappointing sometimes, but it does look good as a sword. It's oversized, it's a bit of a novelty. Looks okay as a blaster, and the short was a lot of fun just with that, the wire sticking out, and the way that you can use that, bend it, no weight issues whatsoever, which means it's something that I actually may use. But probably one of my favorite weapons, as you saw, was the cutter. There's so many possibilities, from having it in the hands, under the forearms, the surfboard mode, the fact that you can have it Darth Maul style. There's a million different things, and a lot of that is master grade only, and I'm glad that they added it. Now what about the rest? The rifle, I think it looks great, and that's despite the fact that it's plain. There's enough detail in the gray, and the fact that they've got a big honking piece of green clear plastic in there, just for me, sews it up as being a quality weapon. And the Buster Sword, despite the fact that it's plain, when you open it up, and especially when you reveal the lights, I already said that you can just call the shield mode the sword if you choose to. I think that it's a lot of fun, and it's a pretty epic weapon, which is supposed to catch your attention, and it certainly does. I think my final verdict comes down to whether or not you're a bigger fan of the 00 Riser or the 7 Sword /G. And here's the question. Should this have been the lead Gundam, following up on Exia with its huge sword with another huge sword instead of just slapping an airplane on the back? Now that's completely up to you. Objectively, if I took away the 00 Riser from the anime, if these were both MSVs, I would go with the 7 Sword in a heartbeat. That's why I wish they included the white parts down for the legs so that you could at least have the option. I think this just looks fantastic as a mechanical design. Fun to build because of all the weapons, and like I said, an airplane just slapped on. I have the attachment to it because I enjoyed the anime, but without that, objectively, I would take this one over that one. So it all depends on your opinion. The 00 Gundam, fantastic. The weapons, fantastic. Posing, well, you can do a million things with it. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there, but if you can have some patience, I think you'll love it too. So what about the future? I always wondered, looking at the perfect grade that of the 00 Riser, that I'd assumed it was a 00 Quanta that would be coming out in the future. But obviously when they designed the master grade, they had this one in mind from day one. So what about a perfect grade of this 007 Sword? Certainly something to think about. I should go back and look at the plates, but otherwise, Trans Am versions, there's a million different things. The fact that we've got a high grade and a master grade, though, says that as an MSV goes, this one certainly has a lot of popularity, and I'm sure it's fans who just loved its design and ridiculous amount of playability that got it there. Anyway, everybody, Robert184, gundam.tk, thanks for sticking around and watching this review. Don't forget to check out the 00 Riser for a comparison, and as always, everything I've said is just my thoughts. Why don't you let me know what you think with a comment down below. Is this kit worth buying? What about buying one or the other? Or, of course, my answer is always just buy both. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Lots more to come. Bye. In terms of the future, I wonder. I was always thinking that we'd get 00 Quanta out of the Gundam falling over. Enough said.